Good evening and welcome to the weird and the wonderful with Strange Bones. I hope you guys are having an absolutely amazeballs evening. Welcome to Chanel and Chanel W. I'm glad to see you on. I am going to be starting a very interesting and different topic today that has come out of all of the other topics we have been doing. So hopefully it will allow us a new direction to go in. However, I'm going to be straight up and tell you guys that I'm not entirely certain where all of these things are likely to go, because it's a bit of a weird topic. So we're going to just sort of start it up, see what happens. Hey Jay, how are you doing? Are you having an unbelievably awesome evening? I hope you are. Oh, what a pity. Well, I hope you can at least stick around for a little while and throw in the odd comment, because it's always good to have you around. So I'm sad to hear that, but nevertheless, welcome to you, my friend. It's good to have you on. So yeah, we're going to be doing something a little different and see where it heads, because it's going to be a sort of pick up on something that might grow into something else, but it's come out of things that have come up in all kinds of other lives that perhaps need a certain amount of understanding and examination, and much commenting will be required to give opinions on the matter. Because it's something that, while I could research a great deal that people have said, I'm going to put it out there that there's a great deal that I think by and large, hey there to Just Classified and to Karen that just joined in. I'm going to say that I'm not really sure that I have any answers to this one at all. It's a different one. Yusuf, welcome. Hopefully we have a sufficient variety of people joining us tonight that we can get all kinds of different comments, because different people say different things about this topic, and that might give us some direction. But nevertheless, before we begin, I will remind all of you, thank you very much for the likes, I'm going to remind all of you that firstly, we have one rule on the channel, and that is don't be rude. We don't allow rudeness. We don't allow people who come on to disrupt everything and mess things up. We do this channel not because we necessarily promote or deride any of the topics we talk about. We don't particularly hold any single viewpoint per se. The aim is entirely to examine, satisfy our curiosity about what kinds of things are said, and then consider. You don't have to believe, you don't have to disbelieve. All we ask is that you are polite. So you can disagree, you can agree, that's entirely up to you. We are quite happy with all of that. But thank you very much. The man is right there ahead of me on every level. I do remind you to like, share, subscribe if you can, send gifties, and do all of the good things that promote the channel, because it does matter. And Just Classified has got ahead of us in all ways there, sending both likes and a very nice rose. I do appreciate that greatly. So yeah, with all of that, now one small announcement. I would like the opinion from people. It's become kind of a thing that I always wear my hood for these lives. I like hoods. Hoods are important, and this one is a proper one that was made for me. It's a double-sided hood. Tonight it's got the brown side out. It's black on the other way. It's reversible. And somebody in the last live said to me that I should make them available if people wanted to buy them. So I thought that sounded like an interesting idea, and I went and did a little research. I'm finding out still more, but there is indeed somebody around here where I am that can not only make the hoods but can brand them, which would be kind of cool, I think. And on top of that, can make mugs as well, which I might make it into like a package, a hood and a mug. And by and large, would you guys be interested in something like that? A branded Strange Bones hood and a branded Strange Beans coffee mug. What do you think? If it's the kind of thing you would like or would find interesting, do let me know, because I'm trying to see if it's going to be worth the effort to get into that and see what I could do. I'm thinking, if you look behind me, I have my Strange Bones logo, which I think might be something in that general direction for the logo, which I think might be pretty cool. Thank you for the follow there, Tony Ma. For the hood itself, I'm just going to move back slightly so you can see me. I've actually got my blankie on as well. But my hood is made, as you can see here, it's got a sort of point down the front and on either side and down the back, and then the hood goes over, which is pretty cool. They're very comfortable. They are fairly lightweight, so they're pretty good ones to have when it's just a little chilly, but you can wear them when it's sunny. If you're bald like me, they save your head greatly. Of course, they can be worn down if you are so moved. I like these very much. Thank you so much for being here, sir. I did appreciate your gifts and your being here and your support. I hope that your reasons for going are all good and that you have an absolutely fantastic evening. And yeah, we're going to keep going and doing all the weird and the wonderful and the curious. Thank you for being on. It's been great to have you. So have a fantastic, fantastic evening. And thank you so much for all the kindnesses of the roses. I do appreciate that very greatly. Have a good evening. So yeah, that's what the hood is. It's styled on a medieval style of hood that, cheers buddy, have a good one. It was used among mostly the Nordic people. You will find that the hoods in other places have a different shape and style, dependent on where they came from. I personally dislike the medieval English variety, which is a tailed hood. I think it looks ugly, whereas these actually look pretty cool. And of course, if you really want to, you can be suitably creepy in it. My original hood and the one which inspired this one, I got back in the day when I was a monk for 9 years. And I still have that one as well. It's much, much lighter and therefore more suitable for hotter weather. This one's a little thicker, being double-sided. But I like the style very much, and I was thinking maybe with a Strange Bones logo on the breast, or maybe something on the back, which could be quite easily done. We could make something pretty cool. So yeah, let me know. That's where things are at the moment. And we will see what happens. But all of that said, so here is the thing. we have been going around the world looking at different countries and cultures, and looking at the sort of supernatural and paranormal things that people say are out there in different religions, in different cultures, and more. And we've come across a lot of things, which is very, very interesting. But one of the weird things that we're going to have to get into as well, but not quite yet, is the creation mythologies. How did the world begin according to different people? But before we can even start there, it became apparent that a great number of the so-called supernatural and paranormal beings out there are very closely related to certain elements. And then it was pointed out by somebody, which I thought was very interesting, that, as we know, human beings were fashioned from clay. And I thought to myself, well, that was said in the Christian mythology, but does anybody else say that? Well, the Jewish, of course, does as well, because it's Old Testament, the Jewish Testament. So that's two cultures, but does it count because it's all from one area, as it were, at least in origin? And then I started thinking, where do things come from? What about angels? Where do they come from? What were they made out of? And so on and so forth. And as we progressed through the varying creatures, we came across the jinn. Now, the jinn were not made of clay, but they are said to be, at least according to the Quran and the following holy texts in Islam, they are a race. They are not demons. They are not evil spirits or anything like that. They are said to be another race, but different. Hey, ask for my name. Welcome, 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 welcome. Awesome to see that you are on. I'm always glad to have you as a part. So they are made different, and they are different because they are made different. And then I started thinking, well, hold on. What things are linked to what elements? What things are created from what elements? Much thanks for those likes there, buddy. You start asking these questions and wondering if maybe there are answers. So I decided that we're going to start looking into this. And we are going to begin with a very basic look into what we can call elementals, and then move from there. Hopefully this will give us something to work with. So hopefully we will start to understand a little more. We shall see. Oh dear, it seems that our Wi-Fi is not great. Ask for my name is trying to join. I hope he can. As soon as he does, he will be most welcome. I will just tell you guys so you all know and don't feel too bad about it. We've had a lot of trolls on this channel for some reason. So to be allowed to join live, I have to know you. And very often when people do join and they prove problematic, they get booted. And when they get booted, they get reported. And when they get reported, they get blocked and banned. Because, guys, we're here to enjoy. So we don't allow that kind of thing. I'm going to send another invite to my buddy in the hope that he will be able to join. We shall try. But yeah, that's why I'm very careful now. There we go, straight in. How are you doing, sir? Are you in fine and fabulous form?
Good. Thank you.
I like the fact you've got your hood. I sees it. Well done, sir.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, go on. Sorry, you were saying.
I like this topic of yours.
Well, I think it might end off rabbit holing because there's a lot of aspects, but we need to touch on them because they're weird. So yeah, brace and rabbit holing is good in this. I think it will be well worth doing. So I think it's going to be an enjoyable one. But yes, we're going to ask for your opinion on things. So,
No. So carry on. I'm just gonna switch the camera off because
you're chilling in the background. All good, my friend. Welcome, welcome. I see that King of Darkness has joined us as well. Hey, what's up, buddy? Yes, I did. Absolute pleasure. I was very glad that you had followed me as well. So huge thanks there. And with that, yes, let's get started. So we've got a few of our buddies on here. Jaden's just joined. Ask My Name is here. Hopefully the others will join. By the way, Ask My Name, there will be updates on possible hoods and mugs. I'm getting info from those who can make them, what it may cost us, to see what is possible. So yeah, just so as you know. But elementals. Now, here we run into our first problem, okay? Because what is an elemental is going to depend on which culture you're asking. So we're going to have to look at a couple of versions. And we're going to start with the European, because the European is basically more or less the same throughout. So in classical, shall we call it, European understanding, the world was made out of 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. Now, it was said that there are certain other varieties of spirits and things, but these 4 elements are represented at least by 4 specific elemental beings. Okay, this comes out of things like alchemy, magical viewpoints, quite a few different issues in that regard, which I think is pretty cool. So Earth is represented, oddly enough, by gnomes, or dwarfs, if you will, small, sturdy beings that look after the ground and are often found actually even in mines and such, and there are all kinds of things in that regard. Water is represented by undines, which are water spirits, nymph-like creatures, mermaid-like creatures that live in rivers, lakes, and streams, which makes sense, I suppose. Air are represented by sylphs, the spirits of the air. And Paracelsus, the guy that wrote quite a lot about alchemy and such, described them as being closer to humans than any other elementals, because they move through their element just as humans move through air. Not too sure exactly how that works, but nevertheless. Fire is represented by salamanders, the elemental spirits of fire, and they are typically shown as creatures that live in fire and can breathe fire, so a dragon type thing in a way. There are, of course, many other spirits that are also referred to as elementals in a way, nature spirits and more, fairies, elves, goblins, and such. Some of this was only in later interpretations, though. Now, for the most part, they say elemental spirits are representing the invisible spiritual counterparts of visible nature, embodying the essence of their elements. Now, of course, we immediately realize that this is going to change if you change what the 4 elements are, or how many elements there are. And we will see that as we progress. But the elementals as such, that it really kind of began in terms of the modern Western view, if you will, with Paracelsus. It comes from older traditions, though, in mythology and religion and more. And it can be found in folklore, in animism and anthropomism as well. So creatures like the pygmy were taken from Greek mythology, though of course those of us who live in Africa know that pygmies are real, so yeah, there's that. Which might be a point, nevertheless. The classical world was influential in medieval natural philosophy and understanding the world. If you didn't understand the four elements, you absolutely wouldn't understand the world according to them. But of course, this then moved into all kinds of slightly weirder and more supernatural stuff, such as the creations of the homunculus, which is a sort of alchemically created living being, and it's fairly creepy. Now, Paracelsus, of course, wrote in the 16th century, so historically speaking, not exactly recently, but not that long ago either. And he spoke of these things in a book of nymphs, sylphs, pygmies, and salamanders, and on the other spirits. So Paracelsus identified mythological beings as belonging to one of the four elements. Part of the Philosophia Magna, this book was first printed in 1566 after his death. He wrote the book to describe the creatures that are outside the cognizance of the light of nature, whatever that might mean. And in order to understand the marvelous works God has created. So this was considered to be natural science in its day. Of course, nowadays, we get the idea of the elements in our elemental chart from this idea. And of course, we have a lot more elements, and none of them are creatures. We have the boring ones: hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon. I can't remember the rest. But there you go. Both my parents were scientists, and as you can imagine, I had to learn it, and I studiously made a point of not. But some of it stuck. But yes, this is where the original elements came from. That's why we call them elements, from the elementals. So it's interesting that the concept of elementals was conceived by Paracelsus, but he didn't use the term, or even a German equivalent thereof. He regarded them not really as spirits as such, but as beings between creatures and spirits, generally invisible to mankind, but having physical and commonly humanoid, at least, bodies, as well as eating, sleeping, wearing clothes like humans, and so on and so forth, which might be what... Well, yes. So people considered gnomes as being real things, and they wore clothes and they lived in just like people did. It was considered to be a thing. Now, these days, of course, that is not really accepted as a belief. But that being said,
Did you say gnomes or ghosts?
Gnomes. So kind of like, you know, you get garden gnomes, those little statues you put in the garden holding a fishing rod with a red hat. Those are literally what they're talking about in the most part. They were originally a kind of elemental being. So, yeah.
what's their superpower?
It depends. They are creatures of earth, so they're known to have power over the earth and all within it. They're said to be miners. They're said to know how to find gold and precious metals and things. They look after the earth as well, and if you go and damage it, they can absolutely become upset with you to the extent that they may even attempt to remove you on a permanent basis. There are a lot of different stories, and it does depend on the time. So you've got specific varieties. Now we know that Tractus II wrote in the it has within there his fundamental classification where he talks about nymphs and where elementals live and so on and so forth. So a nymph was a undine, which comes from water. Your slith, or wild man in a way, Sylvestris, is an air creature and lives in air. Your gnome comes from the earth, and your salamander or Vulcanus lives in fire. And they are the essence of that element, which the world was made up of, basically. It was a combination of the elements that makes everything, including us. What does this mean? Well, I'm not entirely sure, but it's going somewhere. So stick with me on this while we look at what they said, at least. Now, human beings are composed of three parts, according to Paracelsus. You have your elemental body, a sidereal spirit, and an immortal divine soul. Now, elementals lack the immortal divine soul. So they don't have the eternal soul, but through marriage to a human, both the elemental and its offspring could gain a soul, according to Paracelsus. Souls were considered to be very, very important in this time, so obviously they spoke a lot about them. Now, this by and large not only shaped the ideas of the modern world in Europe as we knew it, but it shaped...
We're talking about souls. Yeah, right. Not gnomes. When I asked you the question about they've got bodies, because I thought you said humanoid-like creature with bodies, and you did mention soul, so I thought you were talking about soul. Does a soul have a body?
Well, this is the whole thing. So they absolutely said that these creatures are physical beings, though they don't have to be all the time because they have extra abilities, but they are physical beings like us.
But okay, I'm talking about a soul. Is a soul a physical being, a creature?
No.
So it's a being.
No. A soul is a thing that beings might or might not have. And they're important because, remember, this is during a time where if you don't have a soul, you don't go to heaven. So right off bat, having a soul is a very, very big deal. Hey, Mickey Mew, how are you doing?
I'm okay, thanks to you.
Fantastic, thank you. So, yeah, we're talking about elemental beings at the moment for various reasons which we will get to, hopefully, as the live progresses. So, in this sense, Having a soul is critical. No soul, no heaven. Now, we're talking Europe around the 16th century, very, very Christian, to the degree that if you were thought not to be Christian enough, it could be potentially life-threatening. So having a soul, very big deal.
Souls, right? So you believe you've got a soul? People, humans, have souls, not creatures.
Well, okay, in terms of this time, humans had souls, animals do not. Okay, so at least at this time, animals don't go to heaven. They're just beasts, they're not important. Humans have souls, so they get to go to heaven. Elementals don't normally have souls, but by marriage to humans could gain souls.
But what is a soul?
That is another question entirely.
It's just you without a body.
Well, let's go on with this because he talks of your three aspects to a human being. Okay, the first of
I
which,
also want to know about your thoughts.
me personally, that I can't give an answer to yet because it will be completely out of the context of this, because I personally don't necessarily think that elemental spirits do or don't have souls. Does it? I just for the sake of saying up front, I'm going to say to you that I am what people would call an agnostic. I do not believe that you can know God. I know that a lot of people say you can. That's why we have religions. I think religions are made by humans. I'm not saying God doesn't exist, that the Creator doesn't exist. I'm saying that as an existent being, it is far beyond anything we can understand, and trying to know and assign roles and things to God is pretty stupid, because anything that has the ability to create the entire universe is probably a bit more advanced than us. So in that sense, there is that. Now, when you start asking, do I have a soul? I think everything has a soul of some kind, by the mere fact it was a creation of the Creator. What that soul is and how it works is a different question, and I'm not sure.
I would say it's within data, it's history.
That's okay. I'm going to have to think about that, because that actually has a certain amount of good reasoning behind that we may have to come back to, because
It's memory. The soul is memory.
existence beyond mere animal, not even animal, just being present as a physical object. And in fact, there is a certain amount of argument that even things like rocks can, in a sense, contain memory in a weird kind of way, which would imply that while it may be different from the soul of a mobile, cognizant being like a human being, it is nevertheless a kind of soul.
It's kind of like a thing I heard years ago. Me and my family were driving back from Pretoria, and in the car the radio was playing. They were talking about how plants, they can feel distress, you know, like.
Yes, that's been proved by science even.
Yeah. And funny enough, it's like while we were driving, I was looking at the mealy plants, and I was thinking, you know, if you're cutting down these plants, they're freaking out. They're like, they have some sort of spirit to them, you know.
Well, it
Or
makes
not,
you
like, I don't know.
it makes you wonder, because at least, okay, let's take for example the Christian Bible. It says that at the end times you will get a new body. but you will get a body. So clearly the body is an important part. The physicality is as important as the other parts. Then they also say there will be a new heaven and a new earth, implying that all of the physicalities are as important. They might be renewed and they might be different and they might be sanctified, but they will nevertheless be there, which implies it's important.
It's all connected.
This is exactly the thing. You're right.
How exciting. Interesting.
No,
But-
I just have a wild imagination
Go for it.
of the universe. Should I tell you?
Yes.
Yes.
The universe is trying to be conscious, or the universe is conscious, and it's fighting to be conscious. And I'm like also proof of it. I'm one of the ways the universe knows it's conscious, and it's trying to run a massive fucking world, you know, and it's probably also connected and
Well,
knows what's going on.
you know what? You might not be wrong in that. And here is why. Certain other cultures have come to the same conclusion. And we're going to get there in due course. But absolutely, this is something that might need to be looked at, because now this is one of the reasons why, for example, I have a friend who's hardcore vegan, not just vegetarian, vegan. And they're like, the reason that they won't eat meat is because animals have souls. But now, as you've brought up, the problem is it seems that plants might have souls. So does that mean we can't eat plants either? Well,
Exactly.
we're going to run out of things to eat. Is there a reasoning behind the world as we have
I would
it?
say what a soul is it's saved data collected information with movement. That plant isn't just there. That plant is as a root up there in the middle of nowhere as well. He became part of existence.
So
The
the
animal picked him up and he became something bigger.
so it's the continuation that gives soul,
His presence.
not the individual.
His presence just moved around.
Well, that's something which we may have to get to later on, because now what you're talking about is the archetypal soul of things. But we're not there yet. We're still with the early stuff.
Yeah.
So don't forget these thoughts. They will become important, I think, dependent on where this rabbit hole goes. But nevertheless, you're absolutely on the correct track. But we know that back in the day, at least in the West, and remember we are talking only the European at the moment, these ideas of the four elements were taken on. You've got your physical creation out of the four elements. Then you also have your mental presence, which we share with a number of things, including the beasts that are the four elementals. But then humans have an extra thing, which is that immortal soul. And these elementals don't have them, unless they marry a human, in which case they get one and the children will have one, according to Paracelsus at least, which is interesting.
What do you mean by elementals?
Well, the world is made up of the four elements, in this understanding. So everything...
Physics.
This is before you had physics. So everything is made up of earth, air, fire, and water.
Okay.
Now, modern science has moved well beyond this, of course. But there might be something within this understanding at least, that implies that there may have been some truth to it or not, we shall see. Because now there are other things to talk about as well. We haven't got there yet, because this gets complicated. So you have to bear with me a little bit. It does get really rabbit-hole-y. So this understanding of the four elements and their elemental beings was absolutely picked up by the occult world, and the use of them in occult philosophy was obviously very popular. We see echoes of it in a number of other things that were brought into occultism as it was understood. So it was pretty much established. Everything is made of these four elements that allow progression and physicality and more. And if you could understand and properly mix the four elements, you could create elixirs that would allow you to live forever, that you could do pretty much anything with. Now, in order to combine them, you would need very important basic things, which included, of course, the Philosopher's Stone. Yes, Harry Potter got it from somewhere.
Yeah, you got it somewhere.
It was not originally a Harry Potter thing at all. It came from way back. And this was the basic element that you could use to combine the four base elements in the right ways to create a cure-all, a life extender, things that would allow you magical powers and more. So it was obviously the go-to thing. This is what you wanted. And this took the idea along further. Now, this was the West, and we will go in a little bit more to it in a bit, but what about the other cultures? Well, interestingly enough, in Buddhism, they speak of the four heavenly kings that rule over the cardinal directions. And we know that the four elements are linked to the cardinal directions in the Western view as well. And they are inhabited by four specific beings that reflect the elements, just like in the West. You've got the Gandharvas, the Kumbhandas, the Nagas, which we've already met in varied things, especially around India, the snake people, and the Yakshas. So these spiritual beings are reminiscent of the elements found in Paracelsian tradition. Now, the different Buddhist traditions in Asia, including Tibet and China, all use your cardinal directions and elements. So Gandharvas is a kind of a semi-celestial being. They're known to be divine performers as musicians and singers and dancers. They're a sort of a demigod in that respect.
I'll be right back.
Cool. They come from the east. From the south, you've got the Kumhanda, which is a kind of a dwarf, an earthly type thing, just like in the West. Very interesting. The Nagas come from the west. They are semi-divine, half snake, half human. We went over them when we did the Indian shapeshifters and when we did the Indian cryptids, because they come up in all kinds of ways, and they are absolutely very, very important in Hinduism. And then, of course, the Yakshas, they're a kind of a nature spirit, usually benevolent, but not always. and they appear in Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist texts. So we have again that. Now, in Jainism, they have a similar idea with the Ekindriya Jiva, the one-sensed beings with bodies that are composed of a single element, as opposed to we, who are made of all of the elements. But they have a 5-elemental system. So one extra. So you've got earth, water, air, fire, and plants. Okay, so they're connected not with exactly animals per se, but specific things that manage to also have a soul. So there's your thing right up there. They do have souls, for better or for worse. So they will be rocks, rain, fires, and so on, but they also have a soul, unlike the normal ones that don't. So elementals are conceived only within their specific element, not like us who are superior, being made of all. Does this matter? We don't know yet. We are progressing. Now, this is just the Jain. So there are varying varieties. Now, obviously, this isn't the 20th century viewpoint, or is it? Because we know that in Wicca, for example, they also believe in the 4 directions, the 4 elements, which coalesce to form spirit being the 5th, and so on and so forth. So absolutely it is believed and it's carried on. But there we're talking the West. We know then that the specific creatures, if it loads like it ought to, but of course it won't because it doesn't want to, you have a number of varieties.
I just snorted to you, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. So they say, hold on, there's more just than 4 elementals. Fairies are a kind of air elemental. The jinn are a kind of fire elemental, as are ifrits. Salamanders, yes. Gnomes, yes. But golems as well, they are earth elementals. You have jinn, which are specifically winged jinn, and they are not fire elementals, they are wind elementals. Sliths and undines we've spoken of, but then you have other ones, the Allah, which are air and cloud. Yes, yes, yes.
Just a random thing that I saw today. People were talking on TikTok about fae traps. What is a fae trap?
Yes, ways to catch fairies.
A fae, like fae trap. Anyway, this lady, she came across this rock that was like floating in the middle of nowhere, and some random weird stuff. You're supposed to,
Okay, so when they say fae, the word for you guys, so that you know, is pronounced F-A-E, and that is the plural for fairy, which is singular. So a fae trap is a trap made by a fairy to catch you.
Yeah, there's many different ones.
Now, yes. You've seen
one with the
mushrooms? Yes, correct.
Yeah, things like that. And the one person, they went to a dog park, and the dogs were running a circle around the circle in the middle of the field, kind of thing. They wouldn't go into the actual circle that was in the middle of the field. It's crazy. I saw that. I was like, what the heck?
You see, now the fairy like to catch people, apparently. And one of these days we're going to have to do a deep dive into the different fairy around the world. Because just like the Bigfoot, fairies are pretty much the same world over. Does that mean they exist?
I think a while you talked about goblins and all that, and then we didn't quite go into Fae, but we were talking slightly about fairies. And
We've mentioned them. We've mentioned the
yeah,
Tuatha De Danann. We've mentioned the Children of Anun. There's certain Japanese and Malaysian fairies. We know that there are African fairies as well.
yeah. That
So,
was really, that was really cool to see. And this other guy had a plant in his house, right?
okay.
There was no wind blowing, but this one little like leaf on his plant kept going flip 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 flip. It was kind
Well,
of weird. And he
uh,
said he said the day before he was in the forest and there was also no wind, but this one plant, it's like it kept following him. Like this one plant in the forest also was trying to catch his attention. Like, and
now
this one plant.
here's the warning. That might have been just a fairy saying hello. But if you had followed it, it might
Yeah,
have been a fairy trying to trap you.
because it was twice in one day. He said like he was out hiking and he recorded it, and this plant was like only the one leaf of the whole plant was like flickering around. And then that night when he came back home and he was cooking dinner or whatever, he noticed the plant hanging in his house was doing the
Also,
same
so
thing.
the fairy followed him home.
Yes,
That's a worrying thought.
I know.
Fairies are very tricksy things and sometimes quite terrifying. So,
Yeah.
hello, Oluwasian. Welcome, welcome. He's come back. Yes, sorry, go on.
No, I was saying that was really cool to see,
Oh,
especially
no,
the
it
dog
is.
park, especially the
Yeah.
dog park where the
N-
dogs wouldn't cross that circle. And then when he tried to, and then next minute when he did, he said that he heard some crazy ringing in his ears, and he was really not feeling well. As soon as he stepped into the circle that the dogs wouldn't cross into.
Well, you see, he invited the fairy home. He
Yeah.
shouldn't have gone into the
No, no,
circle.
no, it wasn't the same guy. It was a different guy.
Oh, okay.
Uh, the first guy, he went hiking and he saw the plant that was doing the weird thing. And then with that night when he came home, the plant in his house was doing the same thing. Now the guy I'm talking about is the guy who went to the dog park.
And there
And
he had this mushroom circle.
yeah, he realized no, there was no mushrooms at this, but he saw the dogs running a circle around this patch of ground in the dog park, and he was like trying to figure out why the dogs wouldn't go into that circle. So eventually he walked into it, and he said that he was having like serious ringing in his ears, and he started feeling nauseous, and
Well,
it was crazy.
here's one of the explanations for that, just to give you something to think about. The fair folk, as they are referred to, are known to be able to travel between places very, very easily and quickly. And they use what they call the old tracks, which are sort of magical gateways between places. And this comes up in a number of different countries and cultures. So maybe he crossed an area where one of those tracks touched the earth.
Yeah, it was really odd. I watched the live video of it. And dogs, really, they were running circles around this. It was an open dog park, but they would not go into that area. And as soon as he did, he started feeling really sick.
Ah, what do you see?
So weird. And even the video of him and the other guy in the forest was like really odd. Like you could see something was totally amiss.
Well, along with this, they do say that animals see far more than we do.
Yeah, especially
So
dogs.
dogs and cats are
Yeah.
supposed to be quite protective. So
Yeah.
perhaps they knew something was there and his dumb
Yeah.
ass was like, I'll just walk across. Well, that
I
might
don't know.
not have been a good idea.
Yeah. The other fairy traps I have seen people talk about are the mushrooms, like you said. They usually are in a circle.
Yes.
Uh, but the only two videos I've seen that I've really like thought about was that one with them in the dog park, and then the other guy with the random plant that's just flickering about. Because you can see in the actual, when he went in the forest, there was no wind. The other plants were not moving, except for this one little leaf that was like,
You see, it was a trap.
yeah.
Now, if you think that the fairy are not around and that they don't do things, in 2023 in Malaysia, the elves, and the locals said it was the elves, their version of it, took a hiker who went missing, and when the hiker turned up again, he said, no, I've only been gone for 2 or 3 days. I got a bit lost and came back. And everyone else said, you've been gone 6 months.
I don't remember. Shit.
Where did they go? Why? And that
I
was
saw it
right now.
It was blocked.
So maybe there is more to this than we think. But nevertheless, I think so too. Nevertheless, as we progress, we see that here is the next very interesting one, which we are going to absolutely have to talk about. Angels are possibly made of light, as we are made from earth.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking about specific beings, which, now they say devils or demons are made from darkness, gargoyles from earth, sprites from wind or water, the jinn from the smokeless frame. Now, of course, we then need to ask ourselves, when you say these things, what does it mean? What are these elements? Are we talking earth-like mud? Are we talking something particular? It's not entirely clear. Now,
Isn't it golems that are made from earth or something like that?
yes, they are as well. So you've got multiples. Now, we know that among the Greeks, Aristotle also said that there were the 4 elements. And in fact, in one of the stories, they say there that, consider, if you will, a piece of wood burning in a chimney. You will readily discern in the disbanded parts of it the 4 elements of which we teach. It and other mixed bodies to be composed. The fire discovers itself in the flame. The smoke ascending to the top of the chimney and thereby readily vanishing into the air manifests the element to which it belongs and gladly returns. The water, boiling and hissing, and the ends of the burning wood, betrays itself, and the ashes by their weight, their dryness, put past doubt that they belong to the element of air, of earth. So right away, they said, here's proof. These are the elements. We know. Now, an interesting side fact. What is fire? Fire only exists if it has something to burn, but it can burn almost anything with the right temperature. It has in and of itself no body or solidity, but stick your finger in it and you'll know immediately how real it is. So right away there are issues there. Ultimately, fire is an element all of its own that is comprised of none of the elements.
Yeah, that's true.
So what is it? Right?
Sorry, I'm snorting at you a lot and my nose is very blocked.
But this is modern science. We're supposed to be experts on science and so advanced.
You can't really
don't know what flame is. Nobody does.
It's crazy.
I mean, they try and say, oh no, we do, we call it plasma. That means nothing. It tells you nothing.
I really,
We have no idea what that means. So,
What was the question? Energy.
what is flame?
It's a visual effect.
No, it's not. It's physical effect. If it was purely visual, when you stuck your finger in it, it wouldn't burn. It burns. It's physical. And yet it has no physicality.
It's energy burning.
Energy? What is energy?
It's heat. It's,
But the fire generates the heat. So
Yeah.
fire makes energy.
reaction.
But the problem there is all chemical reactions are specific. You get water by combining hydrogen and oxygen.
They're all energy.
Yes,
Ev-
but flame can...
You're saying people being made out of mud. What is the mud made out of? The mud
Well,
is made out of.
we're getting to that, but flame can burn all kinds of things. It has no... It's not one specific element that makes it.
Reaction. Chemical reaction. It produces heat.
No,
It burns.
you see, that doesn't still tell you what it is. It's one of the great mysteries of science. We don't know what it
Flames
is.
out of anything. Like you said, you can make flames out of water. You can
Yes.
make flame out of oxygen, out of air.
Yes.
CO2 and hydrogen,
Yes,
nitrogen.
absolutely. But nothing else can do that.
Yeah, flames. It seems like everything can do flames.
No, everything can do flames, but nothing else can be formed out of just about anything. Everything that is formed is made from a specific thing.
Everything is made out of energy.
Well, flame bypasses all of the middle stuff then at the very least.
I think flame is probably just like friction, oxygen.
No, it's not oxygen. You can have
No.
flame without friction. You can have flame without friction.
Yeah.
It can be made.
Okay, tell me
Right?
What,
That's the
you
problem.
mentioned plasma. Do you think plasma is flame?
Well, that's what scientists will tell you. They'll say
Do
that
you think nuclear reaction is flame?
it can be.
Especially when you're talking about spontaneous combustion. Like, that's not even there.
We haven't even got onto that weirdness yet.
That is freaking crazy.
Yes, it is. So there are a number of really basic things that even modern science cannot properly explain, which leads you to wonder, where does all this go? So keep these questions in mind, because maybe we will find an answer and maybe we won't. We shall see. But we then find, among the Greeks, they had some answers, because they said that the four elements that combined to create a human being did so in accordance with the four humours. Now, as we know, the four humans are yellow bile, which comes from fire, black bile, which comes from earth, blood, which comes weirdly enough from air. Right, I don't know why they said, but that's what they say. I was surprised at that as well.
Still, it's made out of energy.
Well, yes, that is true as well. Well, hey, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Glad you could join us.
Okay.
Awesome. So, and then of course the final one is water, which manifests as phlegm, which sounds particularly yuck. So medical care was based around the four humours, and more or less of each one involved would be what made you healthy or sick, dependent on. And to be healthy, you had to keep the four humours in a balanced, natural state. When they become unbalanced, you have problems. Now, of course, this was taken on, but still remains with the four elements and the lining up of them, as they say. So even the smallest division thereon will change things, according to people like Aristotle and Plato. Now, the Greeks had a big influence here in explaining this. Whether or not it's true, of course, is entirely a different thing. So according to them, from the text on generation and corruption, we find that the four elements have particular themes. Maybe this will tell us about fire. Fire is hot and dry. Air is hot and wet.
But how is air wet?
Because it's vapor.
Okay.
Then water is cold and wet, and earth is cold and dry. Yes.
Why is Earth a lot of water? Why did they say there is more land than water?
Well, I suppose they say that because the earth is created out of land. Water is just on its surface.
Under the water.
Is land.
But under the water there's land, so.
Yes. So there is more earth than there is water.
Yes. So that's
Yes.
why I think
That is correct. So these elemental humours, as they were referred to, are what makes things either work or not work, depending on. And of course, as you can immediately see, you can fit this onto a compass. North, south, east, west, earth, air, fire, water, hot, cold, dry, and wet. And they all fit together. Now, at this point, we also add a fifth element. So Aristotle was the guy that put this in, which he referred to either as ether or quintessence, where fire, earth, air, and water are earthly and corruptible. Since no changes have been perceived in the heavenly regions, the stars themselves cannot be made out of the four elements, but must be made from unchangeable heavenly substance. And this is what ether is. So the things that are immortal and unchanged are made of ether, whereas the things that are corruptible and have an ending, like the world, are of the four base elements. Now, this has gone on even so that your Platonic solids now are also connected with specific shapes. So earth is a cube, air with an octahedron, water with an isosahedron, and fire with a tetrahedron. So the fifth Platonic solid, ether, obviously being more important, is a dodecahedron. So God used it for arranging the constellations on the whole of the heavens and all of that which is upon the earth, using these five elements. Now, this of course gets taken even further. So, mobile and immobile, sharp and blunt, subtle or dense, these things also get added into this 4 elemental theme. So they consider it very, very, very important to it. But they were not the only ones. And here is where things get sort of interesting, because while the Europeans were developing the idea of the 4 or 5 elements, so were the Indians. So the 5 elements are referred to, in fact, in the Vedas, especially in the Ayurveda, the Pancha Mahabhuta, and these now are the elements of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Exactly the same. Totally different country, totally different culture. Just throwing it out there. Right? Now, all creation, including the human body. Yes,
You
yes?
said today's modern science do not use these elements.
No. We've got the elemental table: hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, sodium, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, carbon. Yes.
The things that you are talking about, has it all been debunked?
By science, yes. By religion, no.
Okay.
Yes, it gets complicated.
You know a lot about this strange world. To you, it might not be strange. To you, it's still strange. I don't know a lot about this world, but everything it's just weird.
It is very weird, but then again, to be fair, and hopefully I am managing at least to stick to theme in that regard. We are the weird and the wonderful with Strange Bones. So yes, it is